Hey, what's up? This is Jeff of INNERFIT, where exceptional fitness begins within. As always, we don't consider ourselves to be the authority for telling anyone how to live their life. Only you can determine our value to you. Now, in keeping with our theme for the month of March, which we have deemed Men's Health Month, we are continuing the ANDRO Series, and today we're presenting session 2 of the ANDRO Series entitled Early Onset Andropause. Now, I must begin by apologizing for the delay of this series, which is related to changes in my personal work schedule, along with computer problems and several other factors that are far beyond my control. Now, my primary source reference for this series is Dr. Al Sears. You can visit Dr. Al Sears at www.alsearsmd.com. Now, in a previous video, we identified and discussed the definition of andropause, and including the symptoms of andropause. We defined andropause as the male counterpart to menopause, a condition experienced by women as they reach the end of menstruation. Menopause in women is directly related to a reduction in the levels of two female hormones, estrogen and progesterone. While andropause is directly related to a reduction in the male hormone, testosterone. It has been determined that after men reach the age of 40, testosterone levels begin to drop at a rate of about 1% per year. However, we must consider that there are other factors that contribute to the reduction in testosterone levels in men, both dietary and environmental factors that mimic estrogen. Now, this is the focus of today's session, early onset andropause. Although we know that testosterone levels begin decreasing at a rate of about 1% per year after we reach the age of 40, there are millions of men in their late 20s and 30s that experience the symptoms of andropause, which I refer to as early onset andropause. Today, I'm going to identify some of the causes of early onset andropause. Now, early onset andropause is a term that I specifically created for this series. You may not find it being used elsewhere. However, the reason that men in their late 20s and 30s begin to experience early onset andropause is because of a hormonal imbalance. Now, although their testosterone levels are not dropping at the rate of a 40 or 50-year-old man, there is an imbalance between their testosterone levels. There is an imbalance between their testosterone and estrogen levels. Now, once again, what I'm saying here is that the reason that men in their 20s and 30s suffer what I refer to as early onset andropause is directly related to a hormonal imbalance. This has to do with an imbalance between the estrogen levels and testosterone levels in men. As mentioned in session 1, testosterone is the natural hormone that our body produces, and it gives us our masculinity. It's like a natural steroid created by the body. It's a fatty substance that's derived from cholesterol. With that in mind, we must consider the question, does cholesterol-lowering drugs contribute to the problem of erectile dysfunction? Let me state that again. Does cholesterol-lowering drugs contribute to the problem of erectile dysfunction? We ask that question because, as I just read, testosterone is a natural steroid created by the body. It is a fatty substance that is derived from cholesterol. Now, I won't be going into my opinion, my views, or specifics related to whether or not prescription medicines contribute to the problems of erectile dysfunction. I will refer you to Dr. Al Sears or Dr. Ed Mercola concerning the question of prescription meds and the relationship between prescription medicines or cholesterol-lowering drugs and the possible contributions that they make to erectile dysfunction. So thus far in this session, we must conclude that early onset andropause occurring in men in their 20s and 30s is caused by an imbalance in their hormones, estrogen and testosterone. How does this imbalance occur in men within the ages of 20s and 30s? Well, although there are a plethora of causes, far too many to mention here, I will mention the one that I consider the biggest contributing factor to early onset andropause. In my opinion, the biggest contributing factor to early onset andropause is the food that we eat and the water that we drink. Once again, in my opinion, the biggest contributing factor to early onset andropause is the food that we eat and the water that we drink. Understand that estrogen is often fed to cattle, swine, and poultry in order to fatten the animal up in record time. For example, a baby chick that will normally take 24 weeks to become full grown and ready for your dinner table can now be plated and ready for your dinner table within 12 weeks, with the help of estrogen being added to their feed. As a result, estrogen can also be found in beef, pork, chicken, and turkey. Estrogen can also be found in milk, cheese, and eggs. So, in my opinion, the biggest contributing factor that contributes to the hormonal imbalance that causes early onset andropause in men in their 20s and 30s is the fact that estrogen is being added to the meats that we eat. It's added to the animals into their feeds in order to fatten them up and get them to your dinner table in record time. In addition to estrogen and other chemicals, pesticides which mimic the effects of estrogen are also added to the feed of livestock and poultry. Another contributing factor to early onset andropause is the use of pesticides and herbicides which mimic estrogen. They often end up in our water supplies. Pesticides and herbicides which are used by farmers in farmlands, there's a runoff in the drainage and where they end up in our water supplies, and estrogen mimickers end up in our bodies every time we drink water from the public utilities providers, or even when we take a shower. When we drink water and when we take a shower, we are ingesting estrogen. Estrogen then inhibits the body's ability to produce testosterone while at the same time causing estrogen levels to increase in men. So the food that we eat and the water that we drink, in my opinion, is the primary contributing factor to early onset andropause occurring in men within the ages of 20s and 30s. And there you have it, early onset andropause. Now I know this is rather brief. I could go into more detail, but I really did not plan on doing so. These are the factors that I wanted to focus on: the foods that we eat and the water that we drink, because I'll touch on that in another video in this series where I'm going to touch on the foods that we eat. In terms of, I'll touch on that in a later video. Now, this is not an all-inclusive report of this topic. For more detailed report on the topic, I highly suggest a visit to Dr. Al Series at www.alseriesmd.com. Now, I want to also refer you to the INNERFIT Free Resources Library, where you will find the special report for men only. It contains the Dr. Al Series 20-question testosterone test. Take this test to get an idea as to whether or not you may be a candidate for natural testosterone boosting supplements being added to your regimen. Now, in the next session, session 3, we're going to consider some solutions to the problems of andropause and early andropause in the form of natural supplements. The solutions that we're going to consider will be in the form of natural supplements, nutrition, and exercise. So if you haven't taken the testosterone test, now would be a good time to do so that you can be prepared for session 3 of the ANDRO series. Now, if you're finding the information and resources provided here at INNERFIT and iFit TV to be helpful, we would ask that you consider making a contribution to our continued efforts. You can do so by visiting us at www.innerfit.org and clicking on the donate button located on the Free Resources Library page. And we also have a lot of resources, free resources in our library that you may find helpful. Now, until next time, remember, assume the virtue, live triumphantly, and go confidently in the direction of your dreams. And never ever keep your dreams wasted.